everyone has their EU book. For instance, some people just love the Thrawn trilogy. Others love the Darth Bane trilogy. You got your Shadows of the Empire fans. You got all sorts of fans everywhere. And everyone has their favorite book in the EU. Well, mine changed. Mine is Darth Plagueis by James Luceno. And I'm going to review it for you today. So Star Wars Darth Plagueis is about the rise of Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious. This is a book that takes place over like 5 or so decades, and it basically it's a chronology of Darth Plagueis from when he first becomes Dark Lord of the Sith, and in turn when Darth Sidious becomes Dark Lord of the Sith, and he becomes the Chancellor of the Republic. So, how do I like this book? I love it. You probably figured that out. I love this book. It's just so good. There's a lot. James Luceno, to me, is one of those definitive EU writers. And what I mean by that is he has such a knowledge of the EU that he can tie in some of the littlest things in there. For instance, the Bando Gora are in there, and my video game viewers, they probably were like, I know that. Where are they from? Well, if you remember the early 2000s PlayStation 2 game, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, where you played as Jango Fett, he goes after the Bando Gora and Kamari Vosa. Kamari Vosa is a very little role in this, but it helps. I won't spoil why she's in this, but it has stuff to do with Dooku, who becomes a character in this. This book, the climax of this book takes place during the Phantom Menace, which in turn fixes a lot of the questionable things that the Trade Federation does, and it makes certain things just make sense, because a lot of the prequel EU writers, they have to fix a lot of what George did. So there is that. And Gardula the Hutt is in here, who is just all over the EU and all sorts of stuff. Jabba is in here, and Jabba's sort of, not necessarily rise, but when he becomes kind of more of a big deal on Tatooine. Lots of things were affected by Darth Plagueis. I'm just going to say that now. And when you read this book, you're going to be like, oh, that's why that happened. That's why this happened. Darth Plagueis is immune from Munalist. If you don't know, the Munes are the leaders of the Banking Clan, which are important in the Separatist movement in the Clone Wars. Darth Plagueis is also known as Higo Damask, and he has Damask Holdings as his main company. And he does all these favors for people. People do favors for him. Sort of this under-the-table business stuff that he does. And it's very interesting to see a Sith Lord do something like that. And when he realizes he needs political power, he finds someone to do it for him. Enter Palpatine, a young, a troubled young adult. I know that's redundant, but Palpatine comes in, and he becomes the career politician, and in turn becomes also a Sith Lord. That's essentially the plot of the book. I just love this book, and it's very hard to explain why, because there's just so much to talk about. So many things make sense. It ties into the EU just beautifully, with Darth Maul's origin, Dooku's fall from the Jedi Order, the origins of Kamino and their relationship with Darth Sidious, but first Darth Plagueis. with trying to make a clone army. And of course, the explanation as to how the Jedi Order didn't know that the Sith were returning until the Phantom Menace. Just so much deception in this book, and it's very, very interesting to read. It's good to read stuff on a certain, like, just from a certain perspective. It's good to read stuff, especially from like a villain's perspective. And this book is just excellent at doing that. And Plagueis' obsession with living forever is a key at the end of the book, and to manipulate, does he truly know how to create life? And so, is he just crazy? Does he just want to live forever, like most Sith do? Is he going to live forever? Those are just serious questions in this. And of course, how does Palpatine become Chancellor and in turn Emperor of the Galaxy? Just really good story overall. And I will get into the discussion that comes from this book. Spoilers, skip to this time code. It's not going to be complete spoilers, but I have to talk about something. So Plagueis, his thing, it's kind of hard to explain here for me to explain here, but he can manipulate the midichlorians to produce life, or to bring someone back from the dead if they had just newly died. He does this on his master Darth Plagueis had another. I'm not sure if he was going to be a Sith Lord yet. I don't think he was, but he was trained to kill Plagueis. Plagueis captures him for decades and experiments on him, bringing him back from the dead. Really messed up stuff. And Plagueis and Sidious do all sorts of Force experiments, and here's where the talk comes in. Plagueis and Sidious aiding him, they do so many experiments with the Force that the Force rebels and has to counteract it, and thus Anakin Skywalker is born of a virgin mother. Yes, there is the school of thought that Plagueis and Sidious accidentally created the Skywalker, the original Skywalker, Anakin. There is talk of that. In my opinion, it's possible. And I know several of my viewers believe that. But it's just, to me, it's a little improbable. I don't think Plagueis was powerful enough to do that. I don't think anyone's ever been that powerful. Ever. To do something like that. Granted, there's been some crazy stuff in the EU, like when Nomi Sunrider tore the Force out of Eula Quildromo in the Tales of the Jedi series, a Sith possession, which Palpatine eventually will learn and becomes a key plot point in the Dark Empire trilogy, long down the line here in the EU. And then there's Sith magic, and there's all sorts of weird mystical things in the Force. But I personally think that Plagueis and with the help of Sidious, they didn't create Anakin, aka Space Jesus. To me, I don't even want to get into the conversation of why Anakin had to be born of a virgin birth, because I think that's a whole nother video on why Lucas did that and my theory on that. Now, what do I give this? I give this 5 out of 5 stars. This is a must-read for any EU fan Or even someone who's like, hey, I didn't care for the Phantom Menace, but I want to give it a second chance. Say, read this book. It will explain why the Trade Federation and Palpatine do the things they do. And it explains some things about Dooku as well, which you get a little Dooku stuff in here. And yeah. So that's my review, guys. If you liked it, thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe. Enjoy the channel. Won't be another review for a little while. At least not another Star Wars one. So, join me next time as I review Big Hard Sex Criminals Volume 1 by Matt Fraction. It's been a long time since I reviewed something that wasn't a Star Wars comic, so it's going to be good to read some more Matt Fraction. No, I haven't read Matt Fraction in a couple years, so we'll see how this turns out. So, anyway, guys, have a nice day.